there, Griff Hamlin here from Blues Guitar Unleashed. Welcome, thanks for joining me today. Today's video is a little bit tricky because what I want to try to do is I want to try to explain what I think people mean by play by feel, okay? And I hear this all the time, okay? Obviously being generally speaking, a blues guitar instructor, although I grew up playing a lot of hard rock. I've played classical, I've played jazz, I play country all the time. I play all these kinds of music. In the blues world, more than any other, I hear, oh, you just have to play what you feel, okay? And that sounds great, but it's terrible advice for learning. It's terrible because you don't feel anything yet. Okay, when you're learning how to play guitar, you don't have any feel. You have to, for most people. Now, there are always some people who have a natural built-in inner clock, okay? Great. You probably can feel a lot of things already, and that's great. There are things that I can't feel, okay? Feel has to do with count. It's literally just a replacement word for the word people don't like. Okay, and I know that's a little bit of a rant. I get it. I'm sorry. But the reality is that what you feel is what your brain and your ear's inner clock is telling you. Okay, so that is the feel. It's the best description I can come up with. Feel is a replacement for count and subdivide. Period. End of story. Now, on the little solo that I was playing on the way in, you probably noticed it's very David Gilmour sounding, and that's because I was listening to the ending solo to Comfortably Numb not too long ago, and so that kind of stuck out in my mind, because David Gilmour is one of the best examples of a player who does so much with feel. Okay, he plays, generally speaking, fairly simple ideas. And that Comfortably Numb, in that outro solo of Comfortably Numb, it's by and large the B minor pentatonic scale, boxes 1 and 2. The same stuff most of us know and use. So what makes it work so good? A couple of key elements, and these are things that you can learn and things that you can do. One of them, something that I talk about all the time, the big bend. Right? So he's got this huge bend. 1 E and a 2, 3 E and a 4. And it starts just before beat 1. That big bend is on beat 1, but the couple of notes happen right before it. And the chord right there is a B minor chord, and he's bending the 5th of the chord. That's the note in the chord. That note happens to be the 5th of the next chord. Now, you might not be able to tell it. 1 and a da 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 da. Those are sextuplets. He can get away with that because it's a nice slow tempo. But then he does a lick where it's triplets. So, 1 and 2 and. So for every half of the beat, he's going to turn it, instead of going 1 E and a 2 E and a, it's going to be triplets. And that kind of thing, where you put triplets over a straight feel, is a really, really, really cool example of something to do. You can also do the reverse. You could, for example, let's say that I had a shuffle kind of groove in A. Right, so I would play triplets. And that makes sense, okay? But I could also play it straight 16th notes. That might be a little fast. But I could also do straight 8th notes. So instead of 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 1, I could do just 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And while that's not going to be super, super, super weird, it's not going to sound way out of left field, it's seriously going to kind of break up what's going on. Okay, so there are a lot of different things you can think about. The main thing that will make you sound like you are playing with feel is variety. Okay, so a lot of people think that it has to get faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. It does not. You have to remember that we have the fundamental unit, right, is like the quarter note. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? The true fundamental unit is the eighth note. Okay, so when we have a straight feel, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. We have the downbeat, we have the upbeat. Very simple, very straightforward. That's going to be a straight feel. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. As it gets slower, we're going to tend to divide that in half. Okay, 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E. This is kind of a weird groove to play over that, but something like 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4 E and 1 E and 2 E and 3 E and 4. No, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2. That is a straight feel, as opposed to a swing feel. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now some people will say 1 and 2 and 3, and they'll just move that and a little bit later. I tend to do that sometimes as things get faster, especially. However, there is an unspoken tick in there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, in reality, a swing eighth note is 3 ticks. Okay, if we have 1 and 2 and 3, each beat 1 and is like 2 ticks. I literally hear ticks in my head. Okay, so when I'm playing in something that has a swing feel or a triplet feel, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Right? You've probably heard. I mean, how many slow blues tunes do you know that do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4, where that's a nice straight feel. Okay, so you can practice these kinds of things just tapping, right? What you need to develop is your ear's ability to subdivide these beats, to hear them, to be able to work with them and comprehend them. You can do silly things, right? 1, 2, 3, tap it out. Okay, your ear, what's important is that your ear hears stuff. Okay, for example, it hears the words coming out of your mouth and it hears the tick. You could use a metronome. You don't have to, if you want to tap on your leg, you can. You can use a metronome. You can do whatever you want to do. But you need to get comfortable with being able to subdivide a given beat, 1, 2, 3, in either 2 pieces or 3 pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Bonus points if you can keep the same tempo. And the way you do that is actually using a metronome. Most of us have a metronome in our phone these days. If you don't have a metronome in your phone, you can simply go to Google and type something like metronome 60 beats per minute, and it will just start ticking away right there for you. Okay, I have a metronome right here. It's some app that I got. Who knows where I got it? It's not really important. But let's say that I set it at 80. Okay, so that's a fairly comfortable pace. You should be able to 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's straight feel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. That's a triplet based feel. Right? Now, if I can do that, there's no reason that I can't do that when I'm playing my pentatonic scale or my blues scale or my licks or whatever. If I can hear it in my head and I can tap it out and I can count it out loud, I'll be able to play it. If I cannot, I'm not going to be able to play it. Okay? And the idea of playing what you feel is great unless all you feel is quarter notes. Right? So this is not about, it's not about your entire journey as a guitar player, this is never going to go away. And I'm sorry about that, because that can be a little bit defeatist, I guess, in some ways. The reality is, when I practice, I still have walls. I can't feel groups of 6 over a certain tempo, right? So that's what I practice on, plain and simple. There are certain, you're going to get to a point where you're not very good at feeling that particular tempo, okay, when you get to a certain point. Something that I do often with my students, and if you're still with me on this video, kudos to you, because that means you're genuinely interested in this sort of thing, and that's great. Most people have long since left because I haven't shown you some cool lick yet, so I appreciate you being here. But for example, if I set this at 70 beats a minute, actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to go to 150 beats a minute, and I want you to try this for yourself. Okay? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, now, maybe that's too fast for you. That's okay. Go to whatever speed. Let's say 120. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and straight eighth notes. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Okay, assuming you can do that, I want you to cut that number in half. Let's bring it down to 60 beats per minute. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a. And I will bet you, I don't know what, but I would bet you, there's probably some rule against gambling on videos. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I would bet you that 98 out of 100 of you who actually try this cannot tap 16th notes at 60 beats per minute, but can tap eighth notes at 120 beats a minute. And guess what? It's the same speed. It's the exact same speed as far as how fast your hand is hitting your leg. Nothing changed, but the subdivision changed. And that should tell you that you're not subdividing beats in your ear the way you should be. And that's something you need to practice on. So maybe you're trying to increase your speed and you're playing, at 130 beats a minute, but you're playing eighth notes. Well, that's great, but can you do 16th notes at 65? Because if you can't, you're leaving a lot on the table. Okay, so you have to make sure that you practice all of the speeds. You should do straight eighth notes, you should do triplet eighth notes, and you should do 16th notes. For example, when I practice my pentatonic scale, and I don't really have to do this anymore, but I would set a tempo. I'm going to pick 90, just so that it doesn't take too long. And I would play eighth notes, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'd play triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'd play 16th notes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? And be able to play all of them. And I would be able to play all of my boxes, both picked and slurred, in straight eighth notes, triplet eighth notes, and 16th notes. I would do that every single day. And I can't tell you what it did for my technical ability. Now, that's a lot to do. It would take me about 40 minutes to go through all of those. I would do it in every key. Okay, and it would take a long time to get through those. And I'm not suggesting that you even need to do that. Okay, when you're young and you have all the time in the world on your hands, that's the kind of stuff that you decide to do. You don't need to do all that, but you do need to get very comfortable playing in those different subdivisions. And that is how you feel. Very simple. That is how you feel music. You learn how to subdivide beats. You learn how to absorb what those things feel like. And when you do that, you have them at your disposal when you're soloing. And so when triplets against a straight feel pop up, you're good. You can feel it. You know what it's supposed to sound like. And when you have that in your bag of tricks, that is when you will actually feel things and you can actually play by feel. So Again, if you have sat through my rant today and my long discussion on feels and timing and counting and the importance thereof, I really want to applaud you, because clearly you have discovered or finally understand that this is something that you actually have to do. There is nobody. I've watched so many different instructors, so many different videos on YouTube and on Facebook and on TikTok and on you name it, and this just never gets discussed. But this is what it's all about. And it's not sexy, and it's not fun, and it's not easy. It's none of those things, but it will make you better. And it will make you better faster than anything else you can do. So I hope you'll take my advice and maybe try it out a little bit. Decide to try it for a month. Decide that for a month, you're going to set that metronome at a nice slow, start it at 60. And you're going to play straight eighth notes and triplet eighth notes and 16th notes and see how it goes. And it may not go very good. You might have to go down to 55. Admittedly, it's pretty hard. When the tempo gets really, really, really slow, it's kind of hard to hang in there, because there's just so much space between the ticks, it's hard to count that. But 50 to 60 is probably the minimum that you should be at. And if you can do that, and you can start to improve your speed in all of the different rhythmic constructs, it'll take you a long way. So as always, I'm Griff Hamlin from Blues Guitar Unleashed. I want to thank you again. If you've stuck around this long, this is a really important video. It's one I've wanted to make for a long time. It ain't sexy, and it's going to get hardly any views, and I'm well aware of that. But those of you that I'll say have followed me for some time, this is the keys to the kingdom. So I hope you'll take me at my word on this and really put some time in on it. And of course, if you have guitar playing friends that you think would dig this video, I hope you'll share it with them. And I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.